On this episode, I talk with an HR agency about what's the importance about building your employer brand, what's the importance of the offer letter and how it can actually protect your agency later on, and also making sure you follow a process in your interview process, which I just said process a couple times, but that's okay. I think you're really going to like this episode, especially if you're in a growth phase and you're bringing on more team members. So let's get into it. Hey, Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Laura Tolhoek. I am the owner of Essential HR. And Essential HR is a business that was created to help small business owners with their HR systems and structures. So, a lot of times when you're growing a business, you would really benefit from the help of a professional person who understands the legal, the risk side of things, as well as best practices. But you often don't need somebody who's there full time. So we come in and we help small business owners with those small retainers and HR projects where they could use an HR professional but don't want to have one on their team full time.
Awesome. What are what's your theory of when to bring someone in full time? Like what's the employee count?
You know what? I would say about 50. You could use somebody, at a moderate level. I don't think you need, the pinnacle director of HR, but you could use somebody certainly because at that point you already have someone in admin doing a lot of your recruitment things. You probably have somebody in admin doing payroll, and if you bring all of those things together into one system, it might be a little bit easier.
I always looked at a lot of our HR people also did recruiting as well.
Yeah.
Not just what I used to think when I would go back and I'd be like, oh, HR is just making sure I don't get sued, make sure people don't get hurt,
Yeah.
right? Like I didn't really look at it as making sure employee retention's there, recruiting new talent so I don't have to interview all these people and just try to keep up with the amount of business coming to us. So kind of do you feel the same way, like HR is more than just pushing paperwork?
Oh, well, of course, yeah. I'm actually not a huge fan of the paperwork side of things, and automation is a big part of what I like to implement. But there's so many facets of HR. You have the benefits side, the compensation side. Are we paying our people appropriately? Is there other things we could do? If we're a smaller boutique operation, maybe the top salary isn't what's there. What else can we provide in order to build that culture so we're not competing on price alone? Recruitment, obviously, health and safety, onboarding and bringing on new team members, and just the general upkeep of employee engagement is a lot of what we do with our clients and what I did previously in my former life within operations.
I gotcha. What why is it important for employers to kind of build their employer brand before they go into kind of scaling their agency?
So, employer brand, we obviously all know what branding is, and we put a lot of effort and a lot of time into making sure our branding is on par and on spot. But what sometimes we don't think about is what is our employer brand? So, if you think of those big companies, the Targets, the McDonald's, the Southwest Airlines, and you kind of think immediately you know what their brand is, you know what to expect as a customer, and so on and so forth. But then when you think about, you're like, what do you think about when you think about Target as an employer? Or what about McDonald's as an employer? And those are the employer brands. So, what is the employee experience, or what do you think of when you think of them as an employer? So, you may think, well, I'm just eight people. Why do I need to worry about my employer brand compared to McDonald's and Target? Let me tell you, you are competing for the same talent. So just because you're eight people and they may be 800 at one site doesn't mean that you can't compete for that same talent. So I'll give you an example. I have a client, and they were competing for a fresh out of university graduate. And the things that made the difference at the end of the day, because she offered her the job, and the young lady said, I have one other interview I want to take. And she's like, I just won't feel right unless I, follow through and take this other interview. And that was on a Monday. And by Monday afternoon, right after lunch, she emailed, she's like, I'm accepting the job. Going through the other interview only solidified what I thought was the right decision, which is going with you guys. And that comes from the employer brand, which is the experience that you're giving clients as customers and your employees before they even start coming on board. So there's a lot of things that go into employer brand. It could be just first understanding who you are as an employer. If you can put into words who you are as an employer, you can start explaining that in your copy, and you can start standing firm in that when you advertise your job postings. So that's why I say level one, you got to know who you are as an employer.
Yeah, one of the exercises we make people do in our agency playbook is be like, how do you want your internal team to
Mm-hmm.
view the brand? It's not all about outside. I even remember too, like, even in our interview process, we would make it kind of, I think at first started it was just fun for me, um, but then I think it was a conversational starter. So a lot of times when they would have the first interview with me, I would walk into like with my full race gear from the race car on. I had a tutu over jeans one time, seeing
Yep.
if like, would they want to take pictures with me? Are they going to share it socially? Like, just to see how people
Yeah.
react, or are they just going to ignore it? And like, if they just ignore it and don't mention like the big elephant in the room, like there's no
Yeah.
way I want them working for me.
Well, and that goes into your culture of candor. Do you want people to talk, or do you want them to just say, nope, this is the way we're going. We're going forward, no questions asked. And a lot of that works right into who you are as an employer.
You know, why why is it important to have like an interview guide? Like I see a lot of times people are all over the place in interviews. So what are you talking about, like with an interview guide?
Right. So let's go back to the elephant, the tutu over top of the race car gear. So if that is something that's important to you to understand how people are going to react in unusual situations, we need to make that consistent within how you're hiring. Because if you do that for one person, but don't do it for all three that you're interviewing, all of a sudden you have a bit of a disjointed view of your candidates. So the first thing that the interview guide helps with obviously is consistency. The second thing it's going to help you with is really narrow down what it is that you're looking for in your role. So if you're looking to hire flexible and adaptable people, or perhaps you're looking for a part-time role. So for example, we only hire part-time as part of our culture and our practices. And the reason for that is I believe very strongly in having a workforce that is passionate on a multitude of levels. So whether that be family, whether that be, rescuing animals, whether that be building your side business, we want to make sure that that time is available for our team. So when we hire and we're looking for that adaptability and that flexibility, there are certain questions that we ask, because what we don't want is somebody to come on board who actually wants a full-time job, but is just taking the part-time work until they can get there. And that's, in all honesty, it's happened before, and I'm sure anybody who's looked at that has seen that happen as well. All of a sudden, 4 weeks in, and the full-time gig shows up, and the person who apparently only wanted part-time is gone. So how do we really dig into those questions? And that all comes from the interview guide.
Gotcha. Very cool. And let's say they passed the test, they tweeted about the tutu, they asked questions, all this. What's important about an offer letter?
So gone are the days where you can shake somebody's hand and hire them and move forward. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people build that environment of trust, and they build that idea of um, just a very informal atmosphere, and they don't want the heavy paperwork. But as an employer, you have the responsibility to protect your business, and you also have the responsibility to be clear and upfront with the person you're hiring. And that offer letter is going to do both. It's going to explain the vacation, the salary, the hours of work. What if it wasn't clear that, you have a 48-hour work week and they thought it was 35? That's going to be a big misunderstanding up front. But the most important thing that an offer letter is going to do for you is, though you're in the romance stage of your relationship, and though this person could do no wrong ever, Or perhaps your business is in such a good place, you could never foresee the opportunity that where you might need to let somebody go. There is going to be the time where that relationship needs to come to an end. And that offer letter is going to outline how the end is going to go. And that, as an employer, is the single most important part of the offer letter.
Gotcha. And what's the best? Let's say we hired someone, they've been working for us for 4 months, and we realize this this cat's not the right person for us, and we need to send them on their way. What's the best way for us to do that without putting our agency in danger?
The single best way is to make sure that you have a solid offer letter 4 months before. That's going to be, whether it's by a seasoned professional, whether it's by a lawyer providing you with that information. That's very, it's probably, each state probably has certain things that needs to be required on the offer letter, but that offer letter is what's going to make that 4-month termination go a lot easier.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of times people are just like, hey, you're gone.
Yeah.
And they don't have, whenever we were, terminating a relationship, we would always have to make sure that, we had multiple people in the room.
Yes.
So it wasn't like, oh, well, you did this. And they're like, no, they're like, no, that didn't happen. And
we just had that last week, actually, with a client who, they wanted to terminate the person early because they always came in early. So before we got there, cool, that works. But I said, make sure you have someone else in the room. Said, well, who? Nobody's here. And I said, well, just make sure that there's somebody. It's all glass walls. I said, just, outside the office even. And lo and behold, we did not expect this person to turn. And it was like, oh, thank goodness somebody else was there, as just a frame of reference to say, nope, this is exactly what went down. So yeah, definitely having that second person is important. And providing the person with paperwork as well. So when they walk away, they're not interpreting what you said, but they actually have it written down.
Yeah, we've had people go kicking and screaming, like literally like the most calm people that you would never expect it. It was almost like going up to like this little baby chihuahua and then this chihuahua turning into like this wolf, trying to like kill you. Like literally, I'm like, I did not see that one coming.
And then the ones that you think and you're all prepped for, and, perhaps even on, very rare occasions, we've, had the police on speed dial in case need be. Those ones are like, all right, we'll see ya. You're like, oh, okay. Have a good afternoon.
Those are the ones that they're just used to it. Like I've been fired from every job I've ever held. So I'm like, okay, well, yeah, sign this. Okay, here you go. Like, yeah, I'm good.
That's funny.
Cool. Awesome. Well, this has all been great. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience?
I think at the end of the day, understanding who you are as an employer and making sure you're hiring for that, building yourself an interview guide that's actually going to dig deep for that, and then making sure that you're protecting your business with that offer letter is the 3 most important things you can do as you build your team.
Awesome. And where can people reach out to you guys?
So you can find me at www.essentialhr.ca. And then if you go essentialhr.ca/swank, we have a great little 5 steps to finding and aligning your employer brand with your HR systems.
Awesome.
So people can grab that there.
You don't look old enough to use www. That's only for old people. Oh.
Well, I appreciate that. And so would the person who sells me my skincare.
I always laugh when people are like www. I was like, really? Like, usually my 70-year-olds always say that. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend who's building a business and I said, well, make sure you start building your email list. And she's like, I don't check my email. And I was like, and there's the generational gap.
There you go. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. If you guys like this episode and you want to know even more systems for really being able to truly scale your agency, I'm not talking about grow your agency because growing is just growing your revenue. But if you want to know how to truly scale and what are the right systems you need to put in place, make sure you go to jasonswank.com/playbook. and that will show you all the systems that you need. So then you can have that freedom in your agency that you always wanted, rather than be that prisoner and be that toll booth owner for everyone coming to you. So go to jasonswank.com/playbook. Until next time, have a swank day.